I decided to become a scientist because I'd always enjoyed science, and I think I came to that realization probably in sixth grade when we got to dissect owl pellets, and I thought it was so cool that you could like dissect this little thing and pull out all of these bones and reconstruct this skeleton and be like, wow, this owl ate something that was a whole form at one time. And so that's, I think, when I was like, science is super cool, I want to always do science.
When I first got accepted to SF State, I was undeclared. And then after taking a biology class, I found that I really enjoyed it, and that's when I declared my major as biology and became a scientist.
I had many different majors, actually, and after each major, I was like, you know, this doesn't feel quite right for me. And I couldn't quite figure out what I wanted to do with my life. Dr. Raymond Esquerra, who's here at San Francisco State, and I worked with him for a couple of years as an undergraduate, and he was like, you know what you should do? You should apply for PhD programs. And I was like, PhD? Okay. And as I started taking more science classes, I'm like, you know, it reminded me back of my childhood when I really liked science, and I finally decided this is the right fit, and then I declared my biochemistry major, and then after that I pretty much consider myself a scientist.
Ever since I was a young girl, I was always interested in science and nature. And I was fortunate to have like parents that, you know, fostered that interest in science where, you know, we live close in the city, we live close to Golden Gate Park, so they got memberships to the Academy of Science like every year. So every year I would go to the Academy of Science and I would love it. I would never get tired of it. And so it's like ever since then I knew that I wanted to do science.
It wasn't until I got to college that I decided to study science. And why is because I enjoy the challenge of science more than my other classes. And that's why I kept going with it.
My AP bio class that I ended up being in, which I was discouraged from being in, but I went anyways and did it. And I fell in love with all of the dissections we did, and everything in that class was just amazing.
I decided to be a scientist when I was in college, and it was actually almost during my last year that I decided to be a scientist. But mainly it was because I knew that I loved it so much, and I just didn't know what to do with it. But in the end, I found research labs, and I started doing research with parasites. And it was from that moment that I knew that I wanted to be a scientist. I didn't want to be anything else. And ever since then, I've been doing research, and I'm on my way to become a professional scientist.